Live spirited coffee. Got my coffee here. Yum. Oh, so it's later. And I'm not feeling very good. Not because of all the craziness that's going on, but because of my menstrual cycle. Okay. Just so you know, I tend to get very weak during this time and very exhausted and very tired and almost like I can't move. And my body feels very fragile at this time. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to get on here and be here for you guys. But I do want to talk a lot about what's been going on. It's this time it's getting crazier. As I said, crazier in terms of like they're closing the borders now, crazier in terms of like what is next for us. And we know that we're in a time of uncertainty for a lot of people. Good morning, Jose. And I think people are starting to look at this whole thing that's happening, and I don't know really the magnitude of how people are feeling during this time. Of course, I'd love for you guys to share if you guys have fears or if things are coming up for you that you're unclear of, or if you have questions for me on how to get through some of the difficulties that might be going on for you, that perhaps I can provide some guidance to you guys to let you know that it's going to be okay. Okay. Good morning, Zen Summer. Now, a lot of what is going on, as we see, if we understand from the spiritual perspective, if we understood it from this other space beyond the physical stuff that's happening and that we can see, it's a manifestation of what's happening spiritually as well. And as you know, it's called Spirit and Coffee. Why is it called Spirit and Coffee? Good morning, Sandra. Because I say spirit comes first. What we can do right now is to get our spirit right. You hear people saying this all the time. Our mental space and how we engage this situation is going to be the most important thing for us to keep together at this time. Okay. Good morning, Rachel. How do we begin to do that? I don't know if you guys are having fears. What fears are you seeing? I can tell you that in my circle of friends, we don't talk about the fears. I mean, we do. We'll talk about sort of the fears that we have, but we have a support system in order to support us out of the fear and into action, into things that'll keep us moving. Sometimes when we're in our fear, we freeze, or we flee, or we fight, and then we get crazy in our mental space. So, how do we move, or how do we keep ourselves in the parasympathetic state, right? When we're just have this anxiety and fear, and everything inside of us is wanting us to fight, flight, or freeze, right? We're in that state, we're in that mode. And so there are a lot of things. There was a meme that I read that said, what's going to be most important is the kids, and the kids are going to see how they're going to remember what happened in the household during these times. They're going to remember how the families engaged it during these times. Right now, we're starting to recognize more than ever that family is what's important. We're getting back to the basics, okay? Good morning, Stephanie. So in reality, I know that people might be afraid. Yes, talking about the fear can help it heal as well. Knowing that you are not alone helps. Absolutely, Zen Summer, I agree. We did talk about the fears, and in terms of this platform, that is what this platform is about. It's spiritual alchemy, meaning that everything gets utilized. And as you know, probably Zen Summer, that in spiritual alchemy, we never exclude any emotion. It's all important. The fear is important too. And talking about the fear to be one of our most powerful allies if we allow it to. But how we engage the fear is what's important. Now, I don't know who is afraid or who is fearful on here. I don't know if you guys are having concerns. I think, like yesterday, I tried to talk about the financial concerns of people, because I think beyond this virus that people may be afraid of getting, or if you're looking at the numbers, you know that it's not as critical. It's critical in terms of, yes, people are passing away, but it's not as critical as other things, because we're able to overcome it. In other words, our bodies, and there's people that are recovering from it. and they're okay, and not everybody is dying from this, right? So that's kind of, at least in our hearts, we can say, okay, we know that if we have a healthy immune system, we know that if we just follow these practices, that we're going to be okay health wise. But mentally, how are we? How are we doing mentally? Because that is going to be the one of the most critical things that we get to look at. How do we shift our mindset? How do we engage this from a space that's going to support us into health, into well-being mentally, and staying stable during these times, right? When we act from panic and fear, right, we get some pretty weird stuff that shows up. It's the human condition. Everybody does it. When we get fearful, we don't really think rationally, and I talked a little bit about that yesterday. So how do we stay calm in these times? A lot of people are struggling with the isolation. Yes, okay, thank you, Zen Summer. I appreciate the input that you're giving. Oftentimes it's hard for me to relate, and I need people to give me some information because um, I forget that some people are not okay with their own self, that some people are still struggling and loving themselves and being okay with being alone and being okay, so for the people that are alone or feel like they are alone, um the thing is that you're, first of all, you're never alone, okay? You always have, even if it's through social media, it's not the best form of connection for people, but at least we have that, right? You're never alone in that there are trees outside, and God is around you. Now, the human interaction, which we need, which is super critical and important, if you live by yourself, is an opportunity for you to sort of look at how you feel about your own self. And sometimes people want to run from themselves because they're not 100% feeling good about who they are as an individual, or they can't understand. They think something is wrong with them. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with you. You are whole, perfect, and complete, even in your fear, even in your self hatred talk in your mind. Everything that you do, you are perfectly perfect, okay? You are a child of God. You are beautiful. Now, to to remember that or to bring yourself to that is not as easy, right? And when you're alone and you're faced with isolation, to be alone, to look at your own fears or to look at your own self, it becomes a little bit difficult if you don't, or if you haven't had an opportunity to do that in your life. Most of the time we have a lot of noise going on, so we don't get time to process really who we are as an individual, or we don't have time to speak authentically about who we are, because we're always engaged in some other activity. It's always outside of us rather than within us. Okay? So if you're struggling with the isolation, if you're someone who's constantly out and now you're having to take a pause and a break, there are a couple of things that you can try to do. One of them is meditation, and I put a meditation up on my on this Facebook platform, of a good friend of mine named Raven, and she does a meditation to help you sort of. It's pretty calming. If you've never done meditation, and you're like, "Am I doing it right?" Doesn't matter. There's no right wrong way of doing meditation. Really, even if you fall asleep, it's okay. At least you were relaxed enough to fall asleep. But it's a guided meditation. Also, you can go online. You can look at different meditations, right? So, in this time of uncertainty, it's really important for you to get clear about what your fears are. And I think, like you said, Zen Summer, that our fears are important to talk about. Absolutely, they are. What are you afraid of? What is it that you are fearing? What's your greatest fear in this time? Is it the unknown of what is to come? Is it financial? Or is it that you're going to get sick? Or is it food, that you're not going to have enough food? Or what is it that you're not going to be able to survive? What's going on? Or is it fear that maybe we're going to go to war? Or is it fear that, what is your fear? You're going to suffer physically? I'll tell you my fear. My fear more than ever is not death. My fear is the feeling I'm going to have before death. I don't want to suffer pain. Pain kind of scares me. When I see the pain of individuals, I'm like, to go through that pain, do I want to feel pain? I don't want to feel pain. Like, it scares me because it hurts. Like, it physically hurts, and I don't want to physically hurt. So for me, that's a little bit of the fear, right? Other things like the finances and stuff like that, if you're afraid of not having enough, just always know you're going to be provided for. Why? Because there are resources on this planet and they are abundant. There are abundance. And guess what? We as the human race are so creative. We are so creative that right now I can talk to you on this phone and you guys can see my face. We're so creative that this audio is being broadcast as far as around the world. Like, this, our ability to be creative in these times is beyond imagination. Right now is an opportunity for us to be creative. If we're in a state of fear, we cut off the creative piece of our minds. We're not able to find solutions because we're so busy looking at the problems. It's okay to look at the problems. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with looking at the problems, okay? So, how do we, right? How do we move forward from that? How do we come up with solutions? So again, okay, isolation. Let's see, somebody said something. Thanks, Doreen. Hi, good morning. How are you? Isolation is getting hard for the kids, especially us when we still have to come to work. I know mine is having a hard time staying home and with grandma while I get to come out. We are doing movie night. Okay, that's good. Let's see. We're doing movie nights, yard work. I'm really trying to plan activities. Even though I'm exhausted when I get home, I am still trying to engage as much as possible when I am at home. Thanks, Doreen. And Doreen, you're an essential worker, correct? You work in the medical field. Remind me what you do again? Which, by the way, those people who are still in the medical field and supporting, I say kudos to you. Thank you so much um, for all the individuals that are doing their part. I think people are really stepping up to do their part. We're seeing the beauty of humanity in this too, which is people here to serve and help. And we know that those people still exist, which is beautiful. That's another beautiful thing. Um, but yes, doing things differently from a different perspective. How do we engage in a different way? I know that we were here the other night at home, and we started doing karaoke. Like, we just started singing and dancing and acting silly. Just get back to your childlike innocence, and tap into that. Laugh and smile, giggle. I don't know. I made popcorn last night, like, little things like that, right? It's like, well, let's go to the grocery store and see what they have. Oh, they have popcorn. Let's pop popcorn. Let's sit around and let's talk about it too. There's been a lot of talk. I have a teenager here, and I want to hear what she has, what does she think about it? What's her take? Yeah, yes, I work in home hospice. Yeah, I'm a CNA nursing student. Yeah. So thank you for your time and your commitment. And I know it can probably get exhausting as well. And I know you work out and you do all this stuff. And so for those people who are trying to figure out, I think providing some solutions, like, what are you doing at your home that's different? What is it that how are you how are you recreating your life in a different perspective or from a different lens? Um, those things. Why don't you get down and start writing out your goals? These are my goals for what I want to create right now, or here's what I want to do. Here's, I get to do the things that I've never done before. I don't know. I get to crochet. I crochet sometimes. I get to color. I was coloring last night, just different things, keeping your activities going and discover new things. Oh yeah, that was fun. Or I like to cook. I'm going to cook for you. Or if you're all alone by yourself in your house, and I do have some friends who are, or if you know individuals that are by themselves, give them a phone call them up, ask them if they're okay, talk to them for a little bit. That's spending time too. Yeah, look at this as an opportunity to work on the things you say you don't have time to do. Yeah, absolutely. And so we have what I call, so on the front end, when people are living in the fear and they're like, what's going to happen, this uncertainty, we also are getting refuge from God. And part of it, for I feel like the spiritual awakened, that they can recognize this as a time out. This is God saying time out. Okay. Get clear about who you are. Get clear about what you're up to, because after this, who knows what is going to happen? We don't know. And I think the fear of uncertainty, my friend Lisa said that yesterday. I love that word. I think people just don't know. And I think that that's scaring them because we're so used to getting up, going to work, da da da, da da da, every day. We're just in this perpetual, it's like the hamster wheel, and we're used to it. And now it's getting like shaken off of its thing and moved into something different. And now we're like, well, what's the different going to be? Am I going to like the different? Is it going to work for me? So we know that right now we have a pause, we have refuge. It's a great opportunity to get clear about your spiritual practices too. It's a great opportunity for you to look at your faith, what you believe, you know. Are you going to surrender and pray? And I would say that majority of the people that are on here pray. I don't know, that's an assumption for sure, but I would say you guys pray. You guys pray. Pray. Take some time to pray, meditate, take a pause out. Tell the people that you haven't told you love them, tell them you love them. I don't go without telling people you love them, right? It's time to get care. People struggle with change, and one thing to remember is this is temporary, but it's a good time to explore if you need change. Yes, thank you, Zen Summer. I appreciate all your chiming in. It's very supportive and helpful. um, so it is. It's a time to take some time out and remember who you are. That's a scary one for most. I think that's scarier for people than any virus or any national calamity or whatever it is that we're going to, national breakdown, whatever it is, any kind of paradigm shift, whatever, is that people are afraid to remember who they are and to wake up. I think that scares people. Who am I? Why am I here? Those bigger questions that we sort of have struggled with our entire existence, right? Where did we come from? What is our origins? What is my purpose? Do I have a purpose? If I don't, that's a little scary too, because then I'm just doing what? I'm just here kind of floating out in space. Those bigger questions kind of, I think, draw more fear in people than actually what is going on at this time, because those are bigger spiritual questions. Those are huge. And I think oftentimes there's not a definite answer, right? I change constantly. Spirit is constantly changing. It doesn't stay the same. It's like formless. It's like everything and nothing. So so beyond that, our vessel to receive that information, it gets a little bit complicated and difficult. So again, if you guys are experiencing some fears, if you're afraid of isolation, whatever it is, I know my friend Lisa said she was going to do some free coaching sessions for anybody who needed to talk. I can share her information on my Facebook page. For those of you that are on Podbean, my Facebook page is at Spirit and Coffee Talk. And you can go there, and you can also, if you want to follow that page, you can. And I think I'll be posting up some of my other friends' stuff, but I can share Lisa's information there where if you guys want to. Also, I'm available if you need to talk as well. We can set up a time and I can do a coaching session with you just to get your mind right so that you are thinking from a space of clarity, um, instead of being irrational. You can be irrational if you choose to be. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's not going to serve you. The result might be a little bit distorted. If you take a pause, take a deep breath, remember, okay, in this moment, I'm okay. Now, what do I need to do? How do I organize my thought process so that I can move forward? Our internal mind is fighting, fighting for things to be the same. We are reprogramming everything. It's like the Matrix. The Matrix is getting reprogrammed right now. That's scary because it's like we, right, are like, well, what's the program going to be? Do I have any control over what this program is? The only thing you have control over in the programming is your own mental programming, how you engage it, figuring out how to deal with the isolation, which is one thing I didn't think about, right? And the reason why is because I don't come from that perception. My fear is something totally different, but everybody has their own fears. And when we talk about them and we're able to communicate them, we're able to come up with a solution, or we're able to at least release the energy so that we can start to transition into what I call there's the shadow side and the light side, and we can swing the pendulum into the light. Yes, oh yeah, I got that one. Okay. Taking a drink of my coffee. So there you have it. A couple of other things that I'd like to just say. Try to stay as healthy as possible. I don't know if you guys work out. I'm going to be doing in-home workouts for myself. I did some yesterday. I know that we could be outside and stuff. I was thinking about going to the mountains. It might be a little too cold out there though. So maybe I won't do that. Um, but you can always walk, ride a bike. You could walk a dog. You could do all those things if you're not 100% quarantined or curfewed. Um, but in home workouts as well. Stay as healthy as possible. Keep moving. That's super critical in this time. And also, if you can eat a little cleaner, try to clean up your diet a little bit. I was watching this video, and the guy talked about the fact that it's not the coronavirus itself that's killing us. It is the 5G and the heavy metals that are in our body that are causing these reactions in our body. And you don't have to believe it or believe it, whatever the case is for you. I personally know that they put a bunch of chemicals and toxins into our atmosphere. I know that they put heavy metals in our body. And they do a bunch of crazy stuff, right, to try to keep us from actually reaching our spiritual maturity. Okay, that's really why. Because if we remember who we are, it's really hard to control us. But if we forget and they sort of mute us out with these toxins and good morning, Patrick, and these heavy metals and chemicals, then our spiritual progression sort of slows because our body is trying to keep up. Like we're so busy worried about the body surviving that we can't get to the soul. Okay. So here's the deal. Eat as clean as you can. It's not going to hurt you. In fact, it's going to help you. So I know that, restaurants are closing down. Now's the time to start cooking at home, cleaning up your diets a little bit better. And I provide this as an opportunity for you to build your immunity at this time. Our health is very fragile. My health is even fragile. And so an opportunity for you to get a little bit clearer about it. One thing I can say that I'm super happy about when I go to the supermarkets is that I see a lot of the juices and the Cokes and all that still on the shelves. And people are going for, vegetables and meat, and then also grains and stuff like that'll last a little bit longer. But it made me happy to know that maybe this is a time of detox as well. And I feel like there's another piece to this, which is the food and the detox from food, that people don't realize that sugar and sodium are really hard to detox from. And so, and then the drug addicts are going to be detoxing. So I really would say send prayers out to those who are having to go through this detoxification and don't really have a choice, but to, because eventually I believe it's going to get to that. If people are quarantined, there are going to be addicts out there who are going through, we have a lot of heroin addicts here in our state, and meth and stuff. And those people are going to be going through a detoxification that is not pretty. It's not pretty. And so pray for those people too. Remember that they too are human, and that, whatever put them on the path of their whatever that they're on doesn't matter. I've seen people go through detox and it's not good. I mean, I myself have detoxed from alcohol and from sugar and stuff, and it's a hard thing to do. It's not easy. And I think people are starting to go through that too. So that might be a fear for some people as well. So pray for those, okay? And try to clean up your diet a little bit if you can, a little bit more. Cook at home if you can. I mean, if you're going to be home, rather than get carry out, go through the drive-throughs, go get groceries and try cooking at home and see what that does for you in your health and see if you feel better, right? Because if it is a 5G thing, if it is a heavy metal thing, at least we can do is be proactive in our bodies, okay? And how we engage our bodies. Good morning. Good morning, basic. Good morning, what is it? Poetic? Poetic. Poetic? Poetic. It's poetic. Got it. I took me a while to figure that out. Poetic. I'm like, poetic. um, Thanks for chiming in, poetic. Um, so get a little cleaner with your diets, okay? So there's a lot of different things that are going to start to occur. I'm trying to foresee sort of what is going to happen in sort of not prophecy. Like I said, prophecy is only the reason people can prophesize, right? Is because I've told you guys before. It's because they can see the patterns. Patterns repeat themselves. This like history repeats itself. It's not super hard to understand that there are patterns. Um, Once you recognize the patterns, then it's easier to engage the pattern rather than to be resistant to the pattern. So, again, this is about surrender as well. Surrender is a hard one because it opens us up to vulnerability. And who wants to be vulnerable and exposed? It's really not easy. That's a hard one to do, but it's an opportunity to practice being vulnerable and being open to the flow and recognizing that when we drop into the flow, when we're vulnerable and open and we allow ourselves to surrender, God will come and lift us up. Okay. Hi. I like this energy. Hi, Angie. How are you? I'm glad you like the energy. I like the energy too. um, so get a little cleaner. So I'm trying to see the entirety of it all, and I can tell you that the people that are going to suffer the most, I don't want to say suffer the most, that's probably not the best way to say it. The people that are going to go through a very challenging time, that's what I'd like to say. The people who are going to be most challenged through this are the people that sort of didn't prepare for this, okay? And those are the ones we get to pray for. Right? And pray for me too. I'm gonna pray for you guys too, because there's challenges for me as well. But I'm saying those people that have not sort of tried to prepare, that have like been on drugs this whole time. I mean, they're what from my understanding is that they're gathering up all the homeless people, and I don't know what they're doing in your states, and they're putting them together. Now imagine, okay, I want you guys to imagine that all of these people who have been on drugs for years and years and years and years are being put into quarantine, and God knows if it's even humane. I don't even know how if they're humane with it or not, because mostly we treat our homeless very not very kind, and our drug addicts not very kind, okay? And they're going to put them in what, I don't know, like a concentration camp. I don't know what they're doing with them. Now imagine all of these addicts together not having access to their drugs, okay? Imagine what is going to happen, okay? It's going to be chaotic. It's almost like demons are going to be coming out of them. Why? Because they've been addicted to this thing for so long, and they're now releasing the toxins from their body. Their body's not prepared for this. It's not prepared. That is a very challenging thing. Alcoholics, people who have survived on, if they took away alcohol, imagine what would happen to individuals trying to release themselves from those toxins. Okay. So bigger things at play. So pray for them. Pray for their souls. Pray that they find some kind of light inside them to get through it, but also know that humans are resilient. Also know they can get through it. If I can get through it, if I can get through my addictions that I had in the past, they can get through it. And it's going to be a little bit more challenging for certain toxins that they probably fed their body. Like I said, like heroin, it's a hard one. Most people that are heroin addicts typically don't stop. I don't know too many people who recover from that particular drug, okay? Good morning, Wigner. How are you? Tell me what's going on in Kelly, Poetic. Where part of Kelly are you in? So, good morning, Honky Boy, or Honk Boy. Honky Boy, sorry. Sonora, can you tell me what's happening there? I know California has some of the most strict laws right now going on by Yosemite. Okay. I know that California had, like LA and San Francisco were completely quarantined and they have pretty strict laws about what times you can be out, curfew, that kind of stuff. I'm fine, thanks. Good. And another thing, I just want you guys to know I love you. I absolutely love you guys. I love you. It don't matter if I never seen you. It doesn't matter if I love you. I love you. I love you. And I want you to know God loves you, period. End of story. The people in my town are not exactly following the order. Okay, has there been arrest there because of it? Like what's happening if they don't follow the order? Good morning, Inda. Or afternoon, or I don't know. But my son is type 1. Mom is immune compromised. Um, it's nerve-wracking. Nothing's happened yet. Okay. So your son's type 1 diabetic? I have my mom's type 1 diabetic, so is my sister as well. Um, so I'm sending prayers to you. I am from Brazil. Tell me what's happening, Wagner. What's happening in Brazil? Do we have any are you guys in quarantine in Brazil? Are they shutting down borders? Yes, please pray. Pray for everybody on here. I think that if we do prayer, it's super critical. I might get on here later. Um, let's see, it's 12:30 midnight time in Indonesia. Okay, so you're in Indonesia. Tell me what's going on in Indonesia. You guys are welcome to share any like links to the news and stuff like that. Um, that might be happening in your area. It would be super helpful, I think, for everybody to kind of know. It sort of helps me to understand how to support you guys. Like, I can just sit here and talk, but I'd rather understand what you guys are going through and see if I can provide some support in some way. Um, so that you guys can really about just getting your mental state to a place where you're solid, right? So that you can make decisions from a rational perspective. That's it. Like what's going to happen is going to happen. And that I think that's a scary part for people is like, well, what's going to happen? Well, we don't know. Like we can prophesize. I can sit here and I can prophesize what I think is going to happen. And be almost pretty accurate. Okay. There's times that I'm a little off. I'm not 100% psychic like some people, and some people can predict, right? But I do have some predictions. I can see what may come. But here's the deal. Yeah, we could talk about what's going to happen, but what are we going to do in this moment, which is, I feel, more important to get our mind in a space to accept what's about to happen. That's the picture. I think that's what I want get people to understand. We cannot stop the inevitable. What is going to happen is going to happen. Okay? We can fight it, and that's fine. Some people will. Or we can try to flee and run away, or we can freeze and do nothing. Or we can allow ourselves, there's a whole nother option here because we have these options that are happening in our brain, and this is scientific, right? Okay. And also, I will say it does connect to the spirit, but let's talk scientifically about this really quickly so that there's factual information so you understand. There's this whole other side of the brain We don't have to just fight, flight, or freeze. We have the parasympathetic system, which allows us to relax and remain calm. Now, people will say, well, how do you do that? How can you relax and remain calm in a time where there's so much uncertainty? We feel like things might get chaotic. Okay, be the calm in the storm. Not an easy task, may not happen overnight for you, but you can start to practice it right now. Okay, part of it is meditation. Part of it is sitting still and just listening. Part of it is connecting to nature, looking outside at the sun, at the trees, recognizing the patterns that nature provides, because nature gives us very clear indication about what is to come. Notice that nature itself knows when something's not right. Notice that things evolve and change in nature. That they won't resist it, it'll shift and change. We're molding ourselves into something new. That is what we get to do. That is how we remain calm. That is the parasympathetic system. I'm sorry, the sympathetic system. No, parasympathetic. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. But so that system tells us that we can start to maneuver from a rational state of mind rather than from a state of fear. There's nothing wrong with the fear. Don't get me wrong. It's not what I'm saying. And I never want you to hear that message as it's wrong to have these emotions. What I'm saying is that if we can allow ourselves to drop into the peace in the storm, right, that we become the example for others and others will come. If you're calm, others will be calm. So it's sort of like, okay, in a time of a crisis or an emergency on the plane, they tell you put your mask on first so that you can help the kiddo, right? Because if you're calm and you're able to breathe, now you're able to help an individual who may not have the tools like you have. Also, think about our first responders. Okay? Think about our first responders. Our first responders are trained, mentally trained to stay and remain calm in the time of chaos. Think about this. How many times do our first responders, okay? Hi Reggie, how are you? I love your little sayings. You make me smile. So there you go. I like that. It's like Reggie here, virus free, and coffee in hand. Yay. Um, how do we remain calm in that space, right? How? So what we do or what they do is they breathe and they engage from a state of mental peace and stability. And they're constantly in a state of chaos. So think about it. Like if you're thinking about, oh, I can't be the calm in the storm, I'm going to go nuts, I'm going crazy. Think about the first responders. This is not their first rodeo. Every single day, okay? We're talking about policemen, firemen, uniform services, everybody who's in uniform services, anybody who's dealing with especially the first responders, especially the firemen, okay? They are the first ones on scene when there's something crazy that happens. Now imagine that being your everyday job, okay? Doctors, ER surgeons, every day they're dealing with crisis, okay? They're learning and they're taught how to deal with the crisis. They're learning how to be calm when something like that happens. They have to deal with families. They have to be able to communicate with the family. Now, we get to put on our hats. Okay? We get to put on our hats. Why? For our children. If you have children, you're doing this for your children. If you have maybe you have an elder mother or your fathers or whatever, that you get to be the example of the calm in the storm. Now, is that a lot to ask? Probably, if you're a person who really lives on edge with stuff. But can you practice it? Yes. Are you powerful enough to do it? Yes. So I get to be the calm in the storm. I get to do that, right? And I get to practice it. And that's what I do, right? I would never ask you guys to do anything I myself don't try to do. I'm teaching you because I'm saying you can be the calm in the storm. Like, for instance, I tell my mom, turn off the TV. It's good to be informed, but turn it off. Come on, turn it off. Let's sit around and let's talk. We could talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's go over it. And today my mom said something that was so awesome. She told me, Natalie, she goes, what about these families who don't have the understanding or that we do, that are afraid and are living in fear? And I said, Mom, I didn't really think about that, because I live in my bubble, right? I live in my bubble and I don't know what's going on outside my bubble sometimes. And I don't know how people are feeling unless they tell me how they're feeling. I assume that everybody is calm and remaining calm. That's not the case. That's not the case. And I said, you're right. I said, I guess I didn't really think about that. Um, we have a teenager here too. She's calm, but that's because we are engaged, we're informing ourselves, and we're acting rational out of that. But is everybody doing that? I don't know. I maybe not. How do we get to the families that are maybe living in fear and uncertainty and are fragile? How do we get to them and say, you're not fragile, you're powerful enough, you can overcome this? This is just a pause so that we can move into something different. How do we train them mentally to be prepared for this? How do we get to those individuals? If there's somebody that somebody that you love, if you have a family member, if you have somebody in your life, be it a child, be it a family of that you talk to them, you call them up. How can I help you? What's coming up for you? Let them get their fears out. Let them tell you why they're afraid. Don't judge them for it. Pray for them and say, should we pray together? Can we pray? Do you want to pray together? Let's pray together. Tell me what's coming up for you. Can I support you in any way? Or here's some resources. I mean, I don't know how to reach people other than this platform. I don't know where to go. If I did, trust me, I would be, I do as much as I can with the resources that I have myself. I've called people. I've said, if you need support, let me know. If you guys know of somebody who needs support, let me know. Those are the things that I know how to do. If you guys need personal coaching, let me know. If you guys need a meditation, I have stuff on my Facebook. What is it that you guys are needing to be supported? How can we transition? It may not be resources in like, oh, I can give you a bunch of money. If I could do that, I totally would. Seriously. There you go. But right now, we need the mental support to get through these trying times of fear. And I can do that. That's something I have an abundance of, that I can support people in that particular way to help you remain calm. I mean, I'd love to know what was going on in other countries. I don't know, Brazil. I send love and light. Indonesia, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they're still on here. Anybody on Podbean from another country? If so, are you guys going into quarantine? What's happening in your country? Um, can you just kind of express or say, is there any fear for you? Is there anything you'd like to talk about? Cheers. Canada, self-isolation. Okay. In Canada, can you tell me a little bit what you mean by self-isolation? Are you guys on curfew? Are you guys not allowed to come out? What does the food channel and distribution look like for you guys? My biggest thing is to be prepared and be proactive. That's another thing as well. How do you become proactive in these times? So I would say get a sheet out, get a paper out, and I'll do this myself because, like, I personally, like I said, only to tell you guys to do things I myself don't do. I will do it all as well. So here's this. This is my big book of things to do. Um, write a list of the things that you're afraid of. If you are sick, stay inside. No bars, no clubs, unnecessary essentials closed. People are still allowed out. Okay, good. Anybody else from around the world? So this is in Canada. In Canada, they said if you're sick to stay inside, no bars, no clubs, and unnecessary essentials closed. So I guess you can have I guess you guys are allowed to go to the grocery store and such. Is that correct? So I would write anybody else around the world? We are. Okay, good. Anybody else around the world want to share what's kind of going on? Are you guys quarantined? What's going on?
Found one of the distilleries
Uh-huh.
is going to start making sanitizer for your hands.
Oh, they're already doing martial law.
Yeah, they
So I don't know. In the US, is it martial law? Does anybody know on here?
no, they're going to make sanitizer. One of the here in
I know, but were they told to by the
no,
government
they weren't told to. They are the ones that came forward
and said that
talking
they
about
would do it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do what?
Okay. So anybody else?
Did you pick it up? No.
Okay. Nobody else wants to share. Okay. So there you have it. I might get on a little bit later. On my own personal page, which I don't think you guys are a part of. I've never really called it out. We're doing some workout videos and stuff like that because I'm all about staying healthy. And if we're home, we should figure out how to continue on our workout path, right? Don't stop working out. I'm not going to stop working out. But I have friends who are, have some great videos and stuff like that. You can also go on YouTube, of course, and all that kind of stuff to stay healthy. But I say, hi, Sally, remain strong, remain firm, continue to, this is a time to detox, figure out how to get your mind in a state of peace and harmony. I know that sounds easier said than done to some, but I have meditations on here. I might do some singing bowls later with some sound. New York is about to go on lockdown. They didn't mention martial law, but National Guard deployed. Okay, tell me, Reggie, what you mean by lockdown in New York. Australia, some schools are closed. So Australia is in self-isolate. Okay. National Guard are also in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Okay. Thank you for sharing, Reggie. Oh, and by the way, Reggie, thank you for the information. If you have any other information to share, please do. I share it on my other networks that I'm a part of. Anybody else that has anything to share, please, please, please. We don't get all the news all the news can be distorted. You know how these channels work. I'm not even going to get into it, but the news tells us what they want us to know. If you have something to share, please, please, please share it on my spiritandbrew@gmail.com. That is spiritandbrew@gmail.com. If you have a news article, if you have information you want to share, for my Podbean listeners, please do so. You can also follow me on Facebook Live at Spirit and Coffee Talk and share articles on the messenger there. That's what Reggie did. And just share the information. The more informed we are, the better that we can actually be proactive and stay in the state of rational mindset where we allow ourselves to be the harmony in the storm. And this could be a platform for us to connect around the world as well. I know there's probably other platforms, but I'd still love to hear from you guys. Tomorrow, I will probably get on again. It's going to be a little bit different spirit and coffee. I think more I'm going to ask that people kind of share their stories and also that they share what is happening in their countries, since I know this is a international platform and we have people from around the world. So I would love to know what's happening in your part of the world. This is impacting the entire world, not just a city or a state or a country. This is impacting everybody, okay? And I want to know how it's impacting you, okay? So please, if you have information to share, please do so at spiritandbrew@gmail.com. or on my Facebook. Like I said, it's Spirit and Coffee Talk. Please do so. I just want you guys to know that I love you. If you have any questions, if you want coaching, if you need a coaching, whatever you need to stay mentally prepared and stable, please reach out. Feel free. If I can't provide you the resources, I know where to probably direct you for resources. And that's what it's about. It's us coming together. Stay healthy. Houston, Texas. What's happening in Houston, Texas? Can you tell us really quickly? What does Houston, Texas look like for us? Are you guys on lockdown? Oh, you're from India. What's going on in India? I want to find out first. I'll tell you guys, Reggie, I don't know if you're still on here. I don't know if you're still on here, but as soon as the Podbean people sort of give me an update as what's going on. Let's see, we have a lockdown drill on Sunday. What part of India are you from? Is this all of India is going to be on lockdown drill or just where you're from? Houston, Texas, are you there, Sandra? Central part. Okay. Can you tell me what central part? We are okay right now. Okay, so India is now going to go into lockdown. You guys, this is a world global thing, okay? How do we stay okay and calm? Madhya Pradesh. Okay. I lived in Bangalore. I guess I need to reach out to my friends in Bangalore. Be careful. Be careful. Okay. Yeah, it's in the center. Okay. I guess Houston, Texas left here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Sandra. I call you Houston, Texas, unless you're typing about what's going on. Okay. I'm going to get on tomorrow. I hope that you guys will get on. I'm going to start transitioning Spirit and Coffee more to an information platform of what is going on. Yeah, Bangalore is on lockdown. I guess most people are working from home. Okay. This is a global thing. Okay. It's global. So I want you guys to just breathe. So I'm going to take 2 seconds here. I want you guys, first of all, anybody who's on here, just to ground your feet. And then I want you just to kind of close your eyes. And I want you to just take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Remember that the breath of life is what keeps us alive. It's the most essential and important thing that we have is the breath. Without it, we cannot survive. There are other essentials in life, like food and water, but they're not as important as the breath of life. Our breath is everything. And when we find ourselves in chaos, disarray, depression, sadness, fear, anxiety, that we can bring ourselves back to the breath and remember that it is always there to support us no matter what happens. That our breath is our greatest ally, our greatest support. And that with each breath, we can remember that we are a child of God and that we were given the right to be here on this planet. The breath will bring us back to the present moment. The breath will allow us to remain calm in a storm. So whenever you're feeling any of these emotions and you don't know what to do, please bring yourself back to the breath, okay? Good morning, Mustafa. Bring yourself back to the breath and know that whatever comes up for you, it's going to be okay. All right? So I love you guys. I am going to continue to get on here. This is a very long Spirit and Coffee. I'm going to continue to get on here. I'm here for you no matter what. I want you guys to know I'm always here for you. I am not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Even if they rip me from this place, I'm still not going anywhere. I'm here forever, just like you are. Okay? Remember, you are immortal, and the breath reminds us that we are. Okay? So I love you guys. Have a fantastical day. I will be seeing you guys tomorrow. Okay? I'm getting on tomorrow again. So I love you guys. Bye.